Now, it's no secret that humans can't have nice things since we have a bad habit of ruining them, like when people put raisins in potato salad or ranch on pizza. But another thing we've gotten really good at is ruining our planet. Between the Earth trying to end our existence and we doing our best to fuel the fire, it's a miracle we're still around. While you've probably seen a bunch of videos that talk about the plastic pollution problem and how Team C's can help fix this, many of them don't talk about a potentially bigger issue. For every plastic water bottle or 6-pack yolk we remove from the ocean, yeah, those are called yolks, there are millions of tiny plastic particles we can't see. And recent studies show that these plastic particles might be finding their way right here. Your crooked hairline? Your brain. You've probably heard of microplastics before, but have you heard of nanoplastics? If you have no idea what I'm talking about, here's a quick rundown. Microplastics are what they say on the box. Microplastics. Scientists describe microplastics as being small fragments of plastic that are 5 millimeters or less in size. For reference, 5 millimeters is about the size of a grain of rice, so they are quite small. The main concern for microplastics starts with their physical size. When looking at smaller aquatic organisms, microplastics can act as physical blockages in the gut, preventing them from eating. Obviously, that's a bad thing, since it's kind of hard to do the Heimlich on a shrimp. Even if it doesn't choke them, plastics contain different additives that can leach out over time. Some of these additives on their own can have negative health effects like causing cancer or affecting hormone balances. This is a problem since microplastic can get stuck in body tissues. This is even more true for a new category scientists are calling nanoplastics. According to the US National Nanotechnology Initiative, nanomaterials are between 1 and 100 nanometers in size. That's about the width of a single strand of DNA and up to 1,000 times smaller than the width of a human hair. These things are tiny, like tiny. When materials get down to the size, their behavior can vary drastically from their bigger counterparts. Since nanoplastics are so small, they're easier to absorb through membranes. That means it's easier for them to not only sneak into your body, but to also get into your cells. Scientists also believe the increased surface area of nanoplastics might make it easier to release potentially harmful additives in body tissues. This issue of increased additive leaching seems most concerning when it comes to a new study. Researchers out of the Division of Biotechnology at the Daegu Gyeongbok Institute of Science and Technology, have made some crazy findings. In their study on microplastics, the researchers fed a series of mice with microplastic particles 2 micrometers or less in size for 7 days. Keep in mind that these particles are still many times bigger than most nanoplastics. At the end of the 7 days, these researchers found microplastics could not only accumulate in the mouse body, but also could cross the blood-brain barrier. If you don't know what that is, you might not know why that's such a big deal. The blood-brain barrier is essentially a glove for the brain because it secretly has trust issues. Unlike every other organ, your brain has a special membrane to keep it safe from toxins in your blood while still getting the nutrients it needs. Usually, it's really hard to cross the blood-brain barrier, but it seems microplastics can do this in a very short amount of time. Their study found micro and nanoplastics both in the brain and inside microglial cells, which are the immune cells of the central nervous system. They are actually macrophages of the brain. Macrophages are immune cells that act like garbage collectors. When your brain or any other cells in your body dies, macrophages, or in the brain's case, microglial cells, eat the dead cells. They then attempt to break down the dead cells or pathogen and release the waste or neutralized material. They really are like garbage collectors. Since these researchers found micro and nanoplastics in the microglial cells, this told them that the mice brain cells must have encountered microplastics and died, or at the very least, the plastic made it into the brain. I should have stayed plugged in, so how do I get rid of this brain plastic? It's hard to say. Since we just found them, it's hard to know how long they've been a problem or if they even are a problem. Micro and nanoplastics have likely been around since the beginning of plastics. Remember, just because you discover something doesn't mean it didn't exist before. Looking at you, Chris. While it probably took time for microplastics to make their way around the world, you've likely been consuming microplastics your entire life. Since we didn't find out about them until much later, it's hard to know how they have affected or changed us. The data just isn't there. Maybe it is causing higher rates of cancer, changing people's hormones, or we're all secretly growing tails. It's hard to know since we can only estimate how much micro and nanoplastic is out there and still need a lot more work to know exactly what they do. Either way, it's probably just better to avoid them until we know for sure. Unfortunately, that is really hard. Microplastics have been found in beer, salt, honey, and are likely in a lot of food you eat too. They're also in dust, your carpet, and your clothes. But again, we don't know how bad they are for us. I mean, I grew up in a house full of carpet and drinking bottled water, and I haven't died yet. But the fact stands that microplastics are already poorly understood. We're still in the early learning phases of how we can detect them more reliably and how they affect the environment. But nanoplastics throw a whole new wrench in this equation. It's like when you learned algebra. All your life, math just had numbers and then some masochist threw letters in it. There's still so much to learn about nanoplastics, but that's the exciting thing too. Science is about exploring the unknown, and though it is scary sometimes, okay, most of the time, it's what makes it so thrilling in the first place. What we do know is nanoplastics and microplastics are not going away anytime soon. But if you're shook, there are some ways you can try to limit your exposure. I'll link a few articles in the description that will point you in the right direction. The important thing here is we found them and we're learning. Now we just have to find a macro-sized solution for our micro and nanoplastics. I'm Lumi, thanks for joining me at the Benchtop, and remember, keep thinking. It's gonna get me. That's gonna get me so many times. I really hope I pronounced that correctly. What's coming? Blood-brain barrier. Can y'all say that? Blood-brain barrier. Blood-brain barrier. Blood-brain. Whoa. Yeah.